Check to make sure the audio is working. If you're just tuning into this, give it 1 second. We'll do a quick audio check, then we'll turn this to public. I hope that you guys are doing well. Typical 1 or usual 1 a.m. typical live stream here to chat about Freemasonry. Biggest thing I'm looking forward to is the 21st of January. We're going to be doing a 24-hour live stream. But what's going to be really fun about that is it's going to be a live stream in which we're going to be doing a ton of, we're going to be streaming, producing content on a ton of different platforms. Sometimes simultaneously or concurrently, sometimes simultaneously or concurrently, sometimes consecutively. But it'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, we're gonna try doing stuff on YouTube, on Twitch, on YouTube, Twitch, X Spaces, Twitter Spaces. We'll see how we do, but that is for the 21st, so less than a week. That's what I'm most looking forward to right now. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, including Masonic history, which should be a lot of fun, because that's what my members wanted. But in the meantime, for the time being, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and any thoughts you have on Freemasonry. Again, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. And by the way, if you are in southern Ontario, including Toronto, even a little bit north, I hear Ottawa as well, we're getting a ton of snow. So drive safe, be careful. If you have any Masonic meetings to get to, give yourself way more time to get there. Hello, Dylan. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment to let me know what's new, how your day is going, if you have anything coming up. If you've marked in your calendar January 21st, 2026, and the 24-hour live stream. On an interesting note, this has nothing to really do with Freemasonry, although who knows, it might start to affect a lot of things in our life. I was talking to some people today about Polymarket, which I guess is not allowed or banned in Ontario. Having said that, just because something is banned doesn't mean there's not ways around it, VPNs, whatever it is. But yeah, and the danger of people becoming addicted to gambling through Polymarket. And as a consequence of that, the economic downstream effects. Well, doing illegal stuff is never good. I mean, I would say even if it's legal, I have a lot of concerns about Polymarket, and kind of the risk of people developing gambling addictions. And I have a lot of concerns about Polymarket in general. I'm not an expert on it by any means, but it does seem concerning to me, and especially concerning, for people who maybe are at risk of or have developed gambling addictions. Basically, in some ways, the casino is now on your phone and with you 24 hours a day, which is dangerous. And also, there's all sorts of concerns about conflicts of interest. What is like insider trading? Is it insider trading if you have inside information on which you can place a bet? I have no idea, but it seems concerning nonetheless. Old Minty. Um, Very funny, Dylan. So, your question, I mean, it depends on the context. There's no specific answer. Like to just go and knock on the door and express an interest in joining Freemasonry, you don't have to pay any money. A lot of times, lodges will hold open houses for the public for free, or they'll have events there. Sometimes they'll be ticketed events, sometimes they'll be free to the public. But if you are looking at joining a Masonic lodge, then there are yearly dues, which can be between $40 a year, up to $250 a year. It just depends on the lodge and the expenses related to the lodge functioning. I mean, I don't necessarily think gambling should be made illegal, but I do think we need to have very strong regulations. And that is one thing, one of the things I've been very proud of last year is bringing in Play Smart Ontario to the Windsor Masonic Temple to make a presentation at Coffee Club about how to have safe gambling practices, and how to make sure that, if you are going to gamble, you're doing so safely. Um, you're going to do so safely. And, tips like making sure you're going with a budget, paying attention to the time, taking frequent breaks, not trying to chase losses, understanding that, gambling should be entertainment and not a way to try to earn money, et cetera, et cetera. There's a ton of stuff. PlaySmart is an excellent Ontario organization. They have a ton of excellent resources if you know anybody who is struggling from gambling. One of the best pieces of advice is go with the budget and take frequent breaks. It's very easy when you start to gamble to get into this habit of, like, you lose track of time. Schedule breaks to stop, grab a coffee, take a few moments, actually think about what you're doing, how much money you've spent, and how to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a dangerous position. Just a few ideas. Um, I'm doing well, Dream Seeker. I hope you're doing well as well. I have no idea what 311 or 322 is, but ZZJ17, I will say 311 is the app or the phone number you call if you have concerns in the city of Windsor. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we in Windsor, if you're a resident and you see a concern, you see an issue, you should have 311 on your phone, and you should not be afraid to use it to advise, the city of issues, whether it be, like right now, one of the big issues could be streets or sidewalks not properly cleared, for people who, are elderly, wheelchairs, whatever it is. If the sidewalks or the roads aren't properly cleared or cared for, it can be issues for them. Same thing with bus stops, transit routes, street lights that are out, trash not being collected, whatever it might be. Use 311. It's important. Um, well, thank you so much, Dream Seeker. I appreciate that. Gambling can be addictive for many people. You're not wrong, which again is why it's important to be careful, pay attention, use resources, and talk to PlaySmart if you ever find yourself in need of assistance. Actually, I'm going to turn this light off for a second, but this is PlaySmart here. They actually have quizzes you can sign up for where, you can, they're free to do, but it's ways to learn more about gambling, and how to make sure you're doing so safely, and how to recognize if you may have a problem. So I know it doesn't have much to do with Freemasonry. Having said that, it's always very possible that our Masonic brethren will find themselves struggling with gambling addiction, or they'll know people who do. Knowing the resources in your community to help people, whether it be gambling addiction, alcohol addiction, food insecurity, where to get social assistance or Masonic assistance. I think that's really important for Freemasonry. So, 322, I do not know what 322 Skull and Bones is referring to. I mean, I know Skull and Bones, to my knowledge, it's the Yale fraternity, which I believe George W. Bush was a member of, and I think maybe his father as well. But I don't know anything else about it. So cannot be more help. Let's give it some time. Let's see who joins. Actually, hold on one second. Maybe make sure I go back, pin this comment. Which is a good approach, I think. Judging people, probably not always the most helpful thing. Having said that, if you do have an addiction, all right, you do have some responsibilities to get yourself some help and take the steps that you need to take to make sure you're not falling back into addiction. And there are programs and services and places to get help out there. Um, sometimes, Dylan, the accent comes out. I don't think I have a very strong Canadian accent, But every now and then, I mean, I play it up for the camera. If I'm talking regularly, you know, what's about the house? Oh, look, there's a mouse. But every now and then to play it more fun, right? What's a boot in the hoose? There's a moose. You try to play it up for the cameras. My 24-hour live stream is January 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern. So less than a week away. January 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be trying to live stream on multiple different platforms simultaneously or consecutively. So I may be on YouTube, I may be on X Spaces, I may be on Twitch, I may be on all at once. I'm not sure how it's going to go. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to do a practice run on Sunday, January 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Do a practice run of trying to stream on multiple platforms just to see how it goes. I mean, Masons can be gay. I've been in lodge with, I used to say four, I think it's actually five gay Freemasons. Freemasonry does not discriminate based on one's sexual orientation. Um, well, thank you, Sean. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be good times. And 2 p.m. Eastern. Well, I'm going to see, I don't know if I'm going to have an app yet, or I'm going to try to do it with having multiple cameras on set up to different streams because I find the platforms can be expensive or the apps can be expensive. So we shall see. The one place you'll find me for sure though will be YouTube. And again, I like Streamlabs. I've used them in the past. I used a free trial. If you want to make sure you catch it, the place I'll be 100% for sure is YouTube. Um, that is my primary streaming platform. It's the platform I use most frequently, and I'm trying to had the most growth on. But I do want to try to grow on other platforms as well. I'm worried. I want to try to diversify a little bit. Especially because, if the goal is to promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located, a big part of that needs to be reaching people where they're at, which means reaching people on multiple platforms: Instagram, X, Blue Sky, um, YouTube, Twitch, Discord, etc., etc. Right? I don't think we as Freemasons can necessarily afford to be snooty. Medium for written content. Written content. I don't believe Masons are in the Epstein files. In fairness, no one's seen them. But Freemasonry, one of the things we're taught is, or instructed or illuminated, is the importance of being good citizens, including not committing crimes. If we were in the Epstein files, that would probably be because we're committing crimes. So we shouldn't be. Um, being a Freemason, the goal has to be, not the goal, but we have a responsibility to be good citizens, which means, amongst other things, doing things that are helpful to society, not doing things that harm any members of it. And if you, as a Mason, discover any, let's say, friends or brothers are committing crimes, you have a responsibility to inform the authorities, inform the police, lest the craft be brought into disrepute. There might be. I don't know. It's not up to me. Um, I have no idea, Magic the Gathering, what the island made of stone you are referring to is. Mr. Whale, I hope you're not too drunk. I hope you are sober enough to hit the like and subscribe button. I also hope you're making sure that you are being careful with any alcohol consumption. Well, Magic, I've never heard that Masons were there. I don't believe any were, but I have no idea. Like I said, I don't even know what's in the files. If they were, then they should be prosecuted, right? This whole idea that Freemasons are out there like protecting one another from criminal acts, no, that's not the case. If I were to ever discover that a Mason had committed a crime, um, I would inform the authorities. See, I don't do a lot of stuff on Facebook, Dream Seeker, like Reels wise, and I am monetized on it. So I may try to do some streaming on Facebook. It's going to be, again, multiple platforms, sometimes simultaneously, sometimes consecutively. And so I will definitely be letting you guys know like where to find me as I go, posting frequently on all the different sites. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be really, really enjoyable. And I look forward to seeing you all there. It is true. Well, Worshipful Master work is not a degree. Worshipful Master is an office. It is, in fact, the highest office within a lodge. It is in a sense, the CEO or executive director, if you want to use it that way, of the lodge, at least for a year before there's an election. Thank you, MTV. I hope that you're liked and subscribed. And I also hope that you will take a moment to share this stream, consider doing super chats. Thank you, Dream Seeker. I want to see it expand as well. Would you suggest for people first getting involved in Freemasonry? Sorry, not Freemasonry, in content creation. Would you suggest Facebook Reels is the better place to go? Or what would you say is the preference you have? Because I want to be part of platforms that I can, will help me thrive. They'll help me turn my passion for Freemasonry into profession. But I also want to make sure that I'm reaching it's not just about the money, it's about the best reach, right? That's a big part of it as well. So even if, Facebook is more economically viable, if it has a smaller reach to interested Masons, I'd want to focus still on YouTube. Ask one to be one. That's the opposite way it's usually said, to be one, ask one. But there you go. I hope you're doing well. Thank you again for being here. Please hit that like and subscribe button and do a super chat. You gain subs. Thank you. Well, I am, like I said, I think I've got 1.2 followers right now on my Facebook page. Obviously, I've got the almost 3,300 subscribers here on YouTube. By the way, help me get to 3,300 subs. Hit that like and subscribe button. I was at 3,300 subs earlier today, and then I lost 3 subscribers, which happens. Thank you, MTV. Yeah, and it's thanks to all the support of, people such as Dream Seeker, yourself, all the people who show up on this channel, comment, share, like. That helps big time. So please keep up the good work if you can. Keep supporting me. Keep supporting other streamers as well. Support Dream Seeker, support Masonic Roundtable. There's a ton of really great streamers out there, Masonic and otherwise. Silk, here's a better question. Why have you not hit the like and subscribe button yet? I think that's the question we need to be asking. Well, the earth is not flat, and yes, I'm a Mason. I've been a Freemason since 2007, so it's crazy to think it's been pretty much 20 years, which is nuts to think it's been that long. Well, how about you donate $1 to Scoring Compass Promotions to help me continue in my goal to turn my passion for Freemasonry into profession? The earth is a sphere, Jim Lotus. The earth is a sphere. Well, then I guess, Silk, don't like and subscribe. It's up to you. I'd say the best reason to do so is because it's free. The earth is not flat. If you keep repeating yourself, Jim Lotus, I'm going to have to put you in a timeout. I don't mind people saying something once or twice, but if you repeat yourself over and over again, usually that is how you end up in a timeout. So just calm down a little bit. Oblate, 99 cents. How about not even $1? Let's go 99 cents. All right, gonna have to put him in a timeout for a second. Hopefully he calms down a little bit. He seems to really want people to think the earth is flat. One thing about Freemasonry is we are encouraged or reminded to, care about things like knowledge, science, rationality, understanding the world around us. Understanding the world around us means understanding that the world is not, or the earth is not flat. Well, I don't need your likes or subscribes to have a false sense of greatness. I already have a false sense of greatness. I would say maybe not false. Maybe I'm just great. They hit me hard all the time, Frog. It's very exciting. Um, I do not know what that means. Triangle, a square. A triangle is a triangle. Oh, you mean the square, like the tool? Well, that's a 90-degree angle, which is a square angle, right? It's not a. It's 3, 4, 5. It's Pythagoras. Someone needs to go back and learn some geometry. Um, Keeping an open mind is a good thing, but not so open it falls out. Like you got to find a balance, right? You got to find a balance. I've been in parades before. I can't walk, Suzumi. I have no legs. I've been involved in parades in the past. They're always a lot of fun. I'm doing well, Lapis. It's been a while. Thank you for being here. It's not a triangle, it's a square. It's literally a square. That's the tool. Um, well, PTH the Beast, I would say maybe your purpose here can be to hit the like and subscribe button, first and foremost. Second, what I would say is I think there is a purpose to being here, but it's a purpose that we have to find for ourselves. I don't believe there's a single purpose, but I believe you can find a purpose to life beyond reproduction. Um, well, I missed his live stream, but thank you for being here on my live stream. I appreciate it. I see a frog and a triangle. Again, that's an equilateral triangle, it looks like. The square is part of a right angle triangle. Uh, as Pythagoras said, 3, 4, 5. Well, even that, I mean, is it? Because you could argue from a purely biological standpoint, it's not that we're here to reproduce, it's that we're here to see humanity reproduce. For example, I may choose to go to war and as a soldier, I may lose my life, but presumably I'm doing so because I want not necessarily my genes to reproduce, but my country or my countrymen to continue. And maybe I'm worried that they are in fear for their safety if I don't go to war to defend them, right? I mean, reproduction, I think ultimately it's not about reproducing our own genes exclusively, it's about the human race and how we can keep that going the best. Well, it's 1:24 in the morning, so being silly makes sense. We are the good people, Zohabe. I would say we, if anything, what we're at war with is weakness and foolishness and all other things that stream from weakness. Have you ever seen the movie Bug, B-U-G, which is a wonderful, wonderful movie, one of my favorite movies? I ultimately think that the lesson of that is what we see as or cruelty or people failing themselves truly is from weakness and despair. Um, well, I don't know if you're in the same time zone as me, but if you're at work, you're working the night shift, so good for you. More power to you. Um, and thank you again for being here. I greatly appreciate it. Maybe you can keep me company on my 24-hour live stream, which should be a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm going to be doing multiple streams. I'm going to be doing streams that are both, simultaneous and consecutive on different platforms. So I'm going to try to stream on uh, Twitch while also on YouTube, while also on X Spaces. I'm going to try to do some Facebook Reels. I'm going to try to do a lot of different stuff. I'm going to see how it goes. So it should be a lot of fun. Oh, well, Frog Eat Frog, I hope that you will subscribe on your new channel. Um, I don't think that Freemasons did steal his laptop, but if they did, then they should be arrested. What are Shriners? Shriners are a part of Freemasonry. Shriners are an appendant body within Freemasonry. So the shrine is a very important part of the craft. I've known many Shriners. I think they're all awesome. They provide a lot of value to Freemasonry in terms of their charitable endeavors, their banquets that they have. They're kind of the fun side of Freemasonry in a lot of ways. And they do a lot of charity as well. SoCal rocks. Welcome back. The police do not work for the Freemasons. I can assure you of that. I've known in my time a couple of Freemasons who are police officers, but not that many. Maybe maybe 4 or 5, something like that. Well, in terms of who gets into heaven and who doesn't, I'm not a theological expert. What I would say is talk to your priest, your imam, your rabbi, your theological, counselor about those things or leader of those things. If you want to learn how to maybe live a better life down here on earth, Freemason can help you with that. But the afterlife, that's not Freemasons' province. What do you mean aliases? I mean, I don't think Freemasons have that many aliases. Sometimes it's called Freemasonry, sometimes it's called Masonry, sometimes it's called ancient AF and AM Masonry. I don't really know what you mean by that. In my experience, Freemasonry is pretty much always called Freemasonry. I don't know what you mean by aliases. I mean, for me, I'm Cameron Adamson. My YouTube channel is called Square and Compass Promotions, but well, I can't speak for him because I do not know who he is, but I don't even know if he's a Mason or not. You say he's a Mason based on what? Freemasonry is not satanic. Freemasonry is not a religion of any sort. So Freemasonry is neither satanic nor do we, it's not a religion of any sort. There are Christian Freemasons, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, indigenous, whatever it might be. Your religious beliefs are separate and occupy different space than Freemasonry. Freemasonry we are not Luciferians either, Caesar, despite what you read from Albert Pike. We are not Luciferian. So I'm very sorry to disappoint you on that one as well. Albert Pike was one fella. He wrote one book. He does not speak for the craft, nor is everything he said accurate. Please take a moment if you're joining us. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. There are many Catholic Freemasons. I've met several Catholic Freemasons. Now, the Catholic Church has put forward a rule, which as of right now, to my understanding, is if you are Catholic and a Freemason, you're not allowed to take communion, but that is assuming the Catholic Freemason tells his priest that he's a Freemason, that he goes to church to take communion, or that the Catholic priest actually enforces the rules. So, I've known many Catholic Freemasons, though. Any concerns about Freemasonry and Catholicism, that comes from the Catholic Church, not from Freemasonry. Sorry, Caesar, I've known many Freemasons who are Catholics. You can believe me or not believe me, that's up to you. But it is what it is. In fact, Freemasonry is incredibly popular right now in the Philippines, and the vast majority of Filipino Freemasons are Catholic. I do not know what the Yale Club is, but it is not to my knowledge. I mean, again, Freemasons don't run things other than their Masonic lodges. The one above all too. I don't think you're necessarily one above anything, the one above all, but I do not know what you mean. Whether there is or is not a higher power above all pushing rituals, I highly doubt that. Freemasonry is decentralized. There's not a single Masonic governing body that's above all the others. the Grand Master in Ontario is at the same level as the Grand Master in Texas, for example. I mean, I love the Knights of Columbus. Actually, one of the members of this channel is a Knight of Columbus. He's on all the time. I wish nothing but success for Knights of Columbus. I think society in general is better as civic society grows, and civic society includes Knights of Columbus, Freemasons, Moose, Elks. Well, Caesar, you shouldn't do that. In fact, I would suggest that that is considered stalking and should be considered illegal. If I were to find out where you're at or where you're from, I would inform the police of what you're doing because it's not okay to be keeping dossiers on any citizens. Um, well, decentralized is better, I think, in a lot of ways, right? One of the reasons that Freemasonry has had success over the years is its decentralized nature. Because what that means is it allows greater experimentation. For example, if there's one governing body that controls everything, trying something new or different is a big risk because if it doesn't work, everybody gets affected by it. But if you, all right, Caesar, I'm gonna have to put you in time out. Having said that, if anybody knows where to find this guy, um, the the well, I don't believe you because I've known a lot of Knights of Columbus and they're good dudes. Um, so Knights of Columbus are great. I don't think they task anybody to do anything illegal in my experience. Well, Caesar sounds like a crazy person, actually. Caesar sounds like a very foolish person. I don't think he's trolling. I think he might be mentally ill. But I've known Knights of Columbus. I've known many Knights of Columbus, and like I said, they're good people, and they are not out there committing crimes. So I think Caesar probably isn't a Knight of Columbus either. Yeah. So the beautiful thing about decentralized nature of Freemasonry is he does, Dak, and you get those sometimes. Is it allows you to experiment because instead of every time Freemasonry wants to do something new, every lodge changes, and if it fails or doesn't work, every lodge is affected. You can try something new in Texas. If it works in Texas, other lodges can learn about it and implement it within their jurisdictions. There's a lot of odd people out there, Dream Seeker. You get used to it, believe me. Um, I just found his channel. He seems like quite the character, that's for sure. I don't know. I mean, my assumption is it is work. My assumption is most of these um I don't know Doug Mesner, but I'm not a fan of talking about people I don't know or judging people I don't know. I can't speak to him. So let's not talk about people I do not know. My suspicion is the Arthurian legend is based on real people, though, like everything else, just because it's based on real people, that doesn't mean it's automatically super accurate, right? You can have a kernel or grain of truth, and then it can be expanded to the myth. We talked about that with Solomon, with King Solomon, right? Well, I would say with David Scherter, I don't know him personally, but at least know of his channel and the things you have said about him would tell me that he's lying. Um, but I think when it comes to Arthurian legends, I think when it comes to almost any legend, it's a combination of mythological, historical, and in the case of biblical legends, mythological, historical, and theological. All of them are kind of very interesting in that. I think it's fascinating, right? I think that's true for Masonic ceremonies as well. Like how much of what we understand of Hiram Abiff was actually a real person, how much of that is a myth, how much of Solomon is a real person versus a mythological figure, how much of the stonemason guilds in the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries do we actually know about, right? Um, I think that's a fascinating question as well. Because you'd say it's 500 years ago, it's not that long ago in historical terms. Think about even all the information that's been lost in just the last 100 years, and information that we're losing every day. So I would love to go back in time and check out some of these things and learn how much was true, how much was not true. You should watch Dream Seeker. You should watch, I mean, again, I appreciate everybody who's on this stream, and I appreciate everybody who supports me and support them as well. Um, it's interesting being a streamer. I'm not saying this is equivalent to like brain surgery, but it's also not the easiest job in the world. There are challenges that come with it. So, you need to keep that in mind as well. It's one of those things where it's the challenge of you're trying to figure out what topics to cover, how much you're going to talk, how long you're going to talk for. If you want to answer the same questions over and over again, you want to keep multiple questions in your head at the same time. So if you have, let's say you get three questions in a row, which ones to respond to, in what order, what's most important to respond to. We'll see if he wants to do one with me. Um, I need to learn a little bit more about him. Um, yeah, Dawkin, we do not use chalk to hide evidence, Zohabe. You are talking about things you don't understand. Yes, we keep records for the history of the lodge. Usually, I mean, the obvious records are minutes, minute books. There's also registers where brethren will sign in. And there can be financial documents. I mean, and some of these go back centuries, right? Like the oldest Masonic lodge, like my Masonic lodge is 142 years old. We have minute books going back 142 years talking about, the first meeting. I've always said we in Freemasonry need to do a better job at a couple of things. We need to do a much better job at maintaining digital records and digitizing our records. Because, look, you can be as safe as you want when it comes to keeping the physical copies of records that are 100, 250 years old. But there could be a fire, there could be a flood, there can be vermin that get into it. Things can just age over time. There can be moisture. Things get lost. Obviously, the first and foremost thing you need to do is keep the physical copies as safe as possible, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have digital backups so the information is available if it ever gets lost, if the physical copy ever gets lost. Also, we need to do a better job at connecting with our local historical societies. One of the biggest issues I think we've had in Freemasonry is not connecting with our local libraries and historical societies enough. And the reason why that's not a good thing is a lot of times historical societies have records about the lodges as well. Sometimes records get lost and end up being donated to libraries or historical societies. So we need to do both. So Zohabe, it's not, so you're incorrect about what you're referring to there. What you're referring to is back in the day, if you were a Masonic lodge, you may not have your own building. You may instead be meeting in a tavern or a place that you don't own. You simply rent the space. So you may, when you are setting up the lodge, because there's a certain way you set it up, you would set it up using chalk, or you could even use tape to mark out where the officers would sit. And that way, when you're finished, you can wipe it off so you're not damaging or marking up the floor. When lodges switched and when we got our own buildings, purpose built for ourselves, we didn't need to do that anymore. We could just set the lodges up as they need to be set up and keep them set up that way. That's a good question, Dawkin. Freemasonry is, I mean, I hate the word only. It is not an introduction to holding secrets. Freemasonry, in my opinion, is the belief that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. The oldest records I've seen were probably, like personally, it would probably be documents from Great Western Lodge that dated to 1842. It was a minute book. I didn't like what I learned from them was the value and the necessity of maintaining our records because there's really valuable historical information. You learn about, for example, when brethren would join, they would have to write their name, their occupation, the cost for them to join, which is like $2 at the time. The biographical information, like the names, you learn more about the ethnicity of not just the lodge, but of Windsor itself in 1842. The types of occupations that are represented and occupations that no longer exist, like chariot, driver, things like that. Like it was a fascinating reminder of how important our historical knowledge is, not just for ourselves, but for the entire world. Um, well, again, you may put down a sigil to set the lodge up. So, for example, you would put a square next to where the worshipful master sits. If you own the building, you would just put it there permanently. If you don't own the building and you don't own the floor, you're simply renting the space, you would use chalk or tape or like a picture that could be moved or added and removed when the meeting started versus when the meeting finished. Like, for example, when they're meeting at Goose and Gridiron, they're not going to just leave their stuff there. That's why you would use chalk. I heard of them using tape as well. That was a common thing. When chalk, instead of using chalk later on, they would put down tape that could be peeled off easy enough. Um, I've never heard the term sigil, though. I would use the term sign. Minute book, it's just so the meeting minutes, right? So, almost every organization will have like a minute book of some sort, whether it's like a not-for-profit or a board. So, the meeting started at 7:30 p.m. This many members were in attendance. The meeting started with this, and then, this brother made a motion to pay $500 to repair the lights. The motion was seconded by so and so. The motion passed. These letters were read out. These brethren required assistance or are sick and need to visit the hospital. It's just a recording of what happened in your meeting. Um, there'll usually be attached to it a list of those who were in attendance. So yeah, it's one of those things. Um, well, I'm anti you at the moment, and also I'm pro free speech, but it's also my channel. So I have the right to have on whomever I would so choose. Um, and, if you don't like that, then don't stick around. And I didn't ban you, I put you in timeout, but you're very close to getting banned. Um, What? Yeah, kind of like a court reporter, Dakin. I mean, it's the secretary who usually takes the minutes. We are not the enemies of the Knights of Columbus. We are not the enemies with anyone. I've known actually a few Knight of Columbus Masons who are both, believe it or not. I think so. I mean, I think a lot of Masons in general enjoy my channel. At least I hope they do. There are some Masons though who have a more old school mentality, and what that means is they tend not to enjoy uh like they don't like the idea of it being talked about on social media, which is fine. Everybody has their own views of Freemasonry and their own views of how Freemasons should act. Caesar, that's silly. You are not obligated to be anti-Mason. I've known plenty of Knights of Columbus who are Masons. So what can I say? Um, well, your Grand Knight shouldn't hate anybody. Hatred does not strike me as a particularly Catholic. Uh, it does not strike me as particularly Catholic to be hateful towards anyone. You may view Freemasonry as wrong, which is fine, but even that goes to this idea of, you don't hate the person, you maybe hate what they do. I can say this, I, as a Freemason, do not consider any Knight of Columbus to be my enemy. I have great respect for you and for any organization, which again is in the civic space, because civic spaces are incredibly important for, I think, the betterment of society. And that could be Freemasonry, Knights of Columbus, Moose, Elk, whatever else it might be. We are not interested in destroying anything, including churches. Again, Freemasons have many different religious beliefs. I've known many Catholic Freemasons, Jewish, Protestant, Muslim, whatever it might be. Well, Templars are not still a thing directly in that the Knights Templars existed in the Middle Ages. Um, and they ceased to exist around 13, I forget when it was. But when Freemasonry was developing its rites and ceremonies, it certainly borrowed a great deal from this symbolism of the Knights Templars, and brought it into York Rite because, again, they represent a lot of valuable lessons and valuable ideas, including but not limited to the value of chivalry, kindness, helping others, faith. So, yeah. I mean, I have never heard of any Mason stealing or desecrating a Eucharist. I've never seen any Eucharist brought into a Masonic lodge. I would be very confused if any were, because Freemasonry is not a religion. Um, so I don't know what reports you're getting. I think the reports you're getting are bullshit. But I've never seen a Eucharist in a Masonic lodge. And if I ever to find out a Mason was stealing a Eucharist, I would tell them not to do that, because one thing about Freemasonry is we are taught not to be desecrators or revilers of anyone's religion. So your reports are bullshit. I'm very sorry to tell you. Right? And just because you receive reports doesn't mean it's accurate. Um, it is in North America, Dream Seeker. It's not as popular in North America as it is in England, but I have nothing but respect for female. Um, well, we do charitable work as well, Caesar. I mean, what I would say is my assumption is charity being done by the Knights would be supported by the Knights, and charitable endeavors done by the Masons would be supported by the Masons, at least in terms of like financially donating to or volunteering time. But on a emotional level, if that's the right term, I wish the Knights nothing but the best when it comes to their charitable efforts. In the same way, like there are different charitable groups that do different charitable acts. Freemasons have their own as well. Doc, and that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, the most egregious thing a person can do as a Mason would be, I mean, no different than the most egregious thing a non-Mason could do, which would be, pick your crime, murder, assaults, like sexual assaults, like all that stuff, right, would be pretty much as egregious as it gets. What I would say is, in my opinion, there's an added level of egregiousness in the sense that, as a Mason, you are expected to be a good citizen, to obey the laws of the country in which you live. So I would be doubly like, I guess it's, bad enough to commit those crimes, whomever you are. But if I found out a Mason were committing those types of crimes, I would be particularly offended by it. That's not to say it hasn't happened in the past. Like Freemasons are human beings, which means we have both the good and the bad of human beings within us. And sometimes, despite the best efforts of Freemasonry, the bad wins out. I'm sure there's been many criminals in every organization, the Knights of Columbus, the Moose, the Elk, governance, politics, whatever it is. But you hope that the organization itself tends to the good or points to the good, even if individual Masons don't walk that path. I mean, against the lodge, no, there are many Freemasons who love Christ and many Freemasons who do his work. Caesar, you don't know what you're talking about. Now, you can agree with me or disagree with me, that's fine, but you can't keep repeating the same things over and over again, especially when you're full of shit, because that is not, that gets annoying on the stream. I mean, egregious against the lodge. I would say committing a crime in society is as much a crime against the lodge as society. I suppose, I don't know. I mean, Just generally being a jerk, I would think, is how I would describe it. That is probably, in my opinion, the most egregious thing you can do. I mean, maybe revealing secrets. So honestly, they've been revealed so many times. Like, who cares at this point? I honestly don't think Masons would care that much. Um, I don't know. I suppose it would be. I suppose honestly, the most egregious thing would be being a Freemason and then leaving Freemasonry and then lying about it in order to get clicks and views on streams, which has happened. People will join Freemasonry and then leave and then lie about it, but they'll say, I know it's true because I was a Freemason. Is caution? Yes. In fact, within Freemasonry, yes, I know, Doc, and it's very annoying. Is caution a good trait to have? Yes. In fact, within Freemasonry, one of the earliest lessons that is illuminated is the necessity of caution as being valuable. However, like with anything, it's a balance. Caution is valuable. Too much caution, you're never going to move at all. You need to have that balance between being cautious but also forthright and courageous. And you need to find a balance. Not that, being cautious is not an indication of lack of courage. What I would say, though, is maybe you need to have the combination of caution and what's the opposite? Um, I don't want to say careless or reckless or heedless because that's not the right term because that implies um, boldness, I would say. You need to have the correct balance between caution and boldness. And Freemasonry does talk about that actually. Um, and one of the earliest lessons you learn is ways to balance out the need for caution with the need for boldness and courage. I mean, one of my favorite sayings is a Roman saying. It's uh, Festina Lent, which was from Augustus. It means make haste slowly, which means basically progress, but with caution. So Freemasonry does not display all the elements of religion for a variety of reasons, and a lot of them you're incorrect about. So first of all, Caesar, the biggest one, Freemasonry makes no promises of salvation nor threats of damnation. At no point within my Masonic journey or anyone's Masonic journey um, are they told how to get into heaven or if they don't show up, they'll get into hell. Like I would never tell a Freemason, if you don't show up for Freemasonry, you're going to hell, or showing up will get you into heaven. There are no promises of salvation or threats of damnation. For that, if anybody asked me as a Mason what's going to happen to me in the afterlife, my response would be go to church, go to the mosque, go to the synagogue. It's not my place to say. Second, Freemasonry allows for individual interpretation of texts or of rituals. Within a church, within a synagogue, everybody sits facing one direction, the priest, the rabbi, the imam, and he provides you with the sermon, or otherwise, he provides you with the correct interpretation of the holy book, whatever it might be. Within Freemasonry, every Freemason has his own volume of the sacred law within his heart. Could be a Bible, could be could be a Bible, could be a Torah, could be a Quran, and they all, they have that own volume. They also, however, they may have the same ritual book, but there is no single correct interpretation. Everybody gets their own interpretation of the book as they understand it. That's why in a Masonic lodge, everyone is not facing in one direction. They're all facing inwards towards each other and towards the altar. Because there is no single governing authority in terms of how you interpret Freemasonry. There's a worshipful master, he's in for a year, but even he doesn't get the final say in your interpretation. And he doesn't even get to say how a vote or motion should take place. Also within Freemasonry, there are rituals that provide lessons, but that's not the same thing as, for example, a burial rite. A rite is A religious ceremony, a ritual can be religious or not religious. We don't sacrifice anything, Caesar, except for our time. The altar is the place on which a Freemason takes an obligation, no different than in a court of law. You take an obligation on a holy book in the witness stand, right? Whether it's a witness stand or an altar, it's for the purpose of reminding people of the value of the obligation they are taking. Well, altars mean many different things. It does not automatically mean a sacrifice, though it can, right? Um, like if you were to define altar, uh, um, there's different definitions. Um, right? The one is a usually raised structure or place on which sacrifices are offered or incense is burned, or a table-like construction, or a table or place which serves as a center of ritual. So I would say within Freemasonry, the best definition of altar would be the third one, a table or place which serves as a center for ritual. It is, in fact, in the center of the room. And again, when you are joining Freemasonry, there is a ritual. Much of it is centered on that spot. Yes, he is. Actually, no. Um, Sorry, work. There's one person before that. Not always, and also sacrifices can be metaphorical. Um, there was a gentleman before that, the Mackenzie brothers in 1634, I think, in Scotland, are the first speculative Freemasons. Elias Ashmole was the first English Freemason. Um, we do not take an oath to lie. We have never taken an oath to lie. Freemasons take obligations. In fact, one of the obligations is to tell the truth or to be not to tell the truth per se, I guess, but to be good men and true, true as in being honest, right? That in fact is one of the earliest statements as to the definition of a Freemason. It is one who is good and true, or a good man and true, as defined in the Anderson Constitutions. Um, Ambivalence is not a bad thing, legend. Ambivalence can be another word for caution, but what I would say is, again, Festina Lent, it's okay to be ambivalent and caution, but don't let that stop you from making progress. Um, oh, Josh, with the rank question. Don't think about Freemasonry in terms of rank. That's not the best way to think about it. Think about it in terms of uh, think about it in terms of offices. I am a worshipful master of my lodge, which is the highest office you can get. So, feast days, I think you're referring to Scottish Rite. Look, there's no doubt. I wouldn't use the term copying, I would use the term running in parallel to. There's no doubt that Freemasonry, within its various different bodies and groups, including within Scottish Rite, borrowed a lot of symbolism from a lot of different sources, including Christianity, including Judaism, including the Islamic faith. And yeah, some of the feasts were borrowed from Christianity. However, keep in mind that's Scottish Rite. That's a branch of Freemasonry. That's not the same as Freemasonry, right? You never want to use a part to define the whole. In fact, Caesar, that's one of the biggest mistakes that I think not just yourself, but many people make, including Josh. They mistake the part of Freemasonry for the whole. Like the 33rd degree is a part of Freemasonry, it's not the whole. And in fact, if you were to remove the 33rd degree from Freemasonry, 99.9% of Freemasonry would not change. I'd be sad if it went away because I love 33rds. I mean, I've known several of them. But for most people, their Masonic journey would not change at all. You need to keep that in mind, right? Defining a part as the whole is a very foolish idea. It's no different than the Catholic Church, right? If I were to find out that a church is up to no good, Am I going to define the entire Catholic faith based on one church? Um, I am 18th degree Scottish Rite, Rose Qua. Most people nowadays, honestly, they go up to the 32nd, and then, right, if there's only so many 33rds because it's an honorific, but they can get invited to the 33rd. But again, I've done my research. I kind of understand the 33rd degree. I don't talk a lot about it because it's not my place to talk about. But again, first of all, it's not what most people seem to think in conspiracy circles. But even if it was, it's one degree that has no bearing on 99% of Freemasonry. It's an honor. I mean, if I ever became a 33rd, I'd be honored to be one. But the example I always use is, I've been in lodges where you had one 33rd degree Mason and you had nine other Masons who were either third degree or entered apprentices. And there was a motion. The 33rd voted one way, every other Mason voted the other way. And the motion, was passed because the 33rd is one member, is one vote. He has no special authority, special privileges in the lodge based on his being a 33rd degree. Um, well, I mean, I don't know if they stole from us or stole from you. I mean, Freemasonry, the United Grand Lodge of England, actually the premier Grand Lodge of England, was formed on June 24th, 1717. So yes, St. John the Baptist, because that's St. John the Baptist Day, he became kind of the patron saint of Freemasonry. I don't think you can steal a saint. This is not a cult, Astralis Semper Creed. This is a YouTube channel talking about Freemasonry. I've been a Freemason for 20 years, just about 20 years. I don't know everything about Freemasonry, but I know quite a bit. I've been to over 1,000 meetings all around the world. The Philippines, Rio de Janeiro, Bogota, Colombia, throughout the States, throughout Canada, England, Scotland. So what can I say? Yes, there were. I mean, Ashmole is or Ashmole is, to my knowledge, the first English Freemason. He is not the point. He is not the first speculative Freemason altogether. What's the point of the meeting? Sometimes I ask myself that question, depending on if I'm enjoying the meeting or not. So it depends on like what needs to be done. So you have your administrative meetings, which is to administer the lodge, and every group and organization needs to have those type of meetings to go through minutes, pay bills, go through correspondence, talk about what needs to be done, talk about special events. Like there's a million things that you need to do. Um, and that's an administrative meeting. And then those meetings, the purpose really is to make sure the lodge is in the set position to then move from administrative work to ritual work, ceremonies, initiations, raising brethren to the third degree, special celebrations, dinners, banquets, public nights. It really depends. But at its core, the purpose of meeting is at its core the same as the purpose of meeting since the dawn of time. Human beings like to be part of groups, like to be part of things that are bigger than themselves, and that includes going to meetings and being part of groups. Um, I do not sacrifice little children to Satan, nor do I sacrifice little children to anything. We do not, in Freemasonry, sacrifice people of any sort or of any age or of any size. Um, so what Masons do? Um, so free stone masonry, Freemasons evolved from stonemasons. Stonemasons were um, they were tradesmen. They built things out of stone. They built walls, houses, cathedrals. They were tradesmen, journeymen. They were like carpenters, but they worked with stone. Over time, the social aspect of the trade union or the trade guild got kind of spun out into Freemasonry, and men started joining it not to work on stone, but for the social aspect of it. And that's really what Freemasonry is. It's a civic and community club. It's a social club. It's about getting together with your friends, with your brothers, albeit in a more formalized setting, and enjoying one another's company, combined with, that spun out to charitable endeavors, helping the families of a brother if they ever find themselves struggling, benevolence, charity, goodwill, building the community, all that jazz. But at its core, it's a social group. It's a civic and community group. Um, so I don't think King Solomon necessarily existed. My suspicion is he's a mythological figure. Certainly, Freemasonry borrowed a great deal from King Solomon, in terms of, at least the way he's portrayed biblically. There's not a lot of historical evidence for him, because there are certain lessons he can illuminate. Um, Well, I mean, stonemasons do, Astralius. Obviously, if you're a stonemason, which is a profession, you build things every day for your job. Freemasonry is, again, it's a social club. So we build metaphorically, right? We build ourselves metaphorically into better people, or at least we try to. We try to build our communities into better places, all through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth, and through the application of, stonemason tools, but in a symbolic sense. I mean, some may like Skull and Bones, some may not. Um, I mean, I don't know anything about Skull and Bones, so I can't say. It's just a fraternity. Honestly, Dakin, you're not wrong. In some ways, whether it started that way or not, certainly there are some men who, get away is not the right term, but for a lot of men, Freemasonry is a quote unquote third space, which we're missing in society. Um, there's all sorts of sociological evidence, and actually, I think Scott Galloway talks about this, right? For most of human history, there existed a third space if you were a man. And what that third space was is you had your work, you had your family, and then you had a third space you could go that was separate from work and separate from family as a way to recharge your batteries. Um, and it was very important. A lot of men found a lot of purpose in that. Honestly, in some ways, it wasn't even a third space, it was a fourth space. You had your work, your family, your religious responsibilities, and then you had your fourth space. And that fourth space was Masons, elk, moose, a bowling club. It could be a football club. It could be a guy's night out. It could be a man cave that you invite your friends over to, right? Freemasonry, in some ways, acts as that third or fourth space in society. And it's really important because missing that, Knights of Columbus was a third or fourth space for a lot of guys. When you lose that third space, it leads to burnout because men start to feel like their entire lives are focused on what they give to others, not what they can potentially, like not what's for them. It's always what they give to their work, what they give to their family. They need a place outside of that to recharge. Somebody above said, is Freemasonry like church about the gospel? Freemasonry is more like a bunch of guys getting together to go to Applebee's, but putting on suits and ties and having a much more formal version of that. Um, well, I mean, I don't know a lot about the Illuminati. The biggest misunderstanding of the Illuminati is this idea that the Illuminati actually exists. I mean, as of the early 1900s, the Illuminati really ceased to exist, um, at least in any meaningful way. Like some dude may decide to put a sign up in his garage and call himself like Jim's Illuminati organization or something, but um, that doesn't mean that it actually exists in any meaningful way. I definitely don't think the point of life is to start off selfish and to end selfless. Although I do think you can definitely, as a child, you are more selfish, and hopefully as you grow, you become more selfless. But I do think even when you start off, I think we have a natural inclination for kindness and charity. I think that that natural inclination can be promoted through family and through community organizations, but I think it's there within all of us. No, it wasn't invented to be evil. It was invented by a guy called Adam Weishaupt. He wanted more esoteric studies, and he also wanted a cheaper option to Freemasonry. Um, We do not worship ourselves, nor do we worship other Masons. I've never once worshiped another Mason. Whether I worship myself or not, I mean, I guess it depends how you define worship. I try to treat myself and my physical self, at least, in the same way I would treat someone I respect. So, for example, that's why I try to take care of myself physically, my health, because, I care about myself. I don't think that counts as worshiping myself. Um, Honestly, probably at this point, $5. There is no, but Freemasonry does not worship oneself or any other Masons. Again, whom you as a Freemason worship, that's a spiritual question. You may be Christian, so I guess you'll worship Jesus. Um, do I condemn the Grand Orient de France for their attacks? I did not know that the Grand Orient of France attacked priests, but sure, I would condemn. I mean, I would condemn any group that was attacking priests, including any Masons that were to attack priests. Just like I would condemn any priests that were to engage in any illegal activities or attack anyone. Right? It goes both ways and across the ways. Interestingly enough, Grand Orient is not actually recognized. I have no issue with the Grand Orient personally. I mean, I've known Grand Orient Masons. They're good dudes. They're good people. They have co-Freemasonry as well, but it's considered a liberal order in Freemasonry, which is a really interesting topic as well. At least if I recall correctly. I should double check that to make sure I got that right. Um, Well, I mean, Josh, sure, we help each other as Freemasons, not to an extent that would be illegal. If a Mason were to come to me and say, I've committed a crime, help me, I would say, no, I'm going to call the police because you should not be committing crimes nor helping a brother who commits crimes. But yeah, sure, I mean, because they're my brothers and they're my friends. So if a brother needs help moving on a weekend and I can help him, I'll lift a couch. Of course I would. Why wouldn't I? That doesn't mean I worship him. That's a really silly view of worship. Honestly, Josh, that's a pretty stupid view of worship, to be honest. Nothing, Astralius. There is nothing to stop anybody else from creating their own version of Freemasonry. That would be called clandestine. It happens all the time. And I'm not one of those Masons who gets super shirty about clandestine Masons. Look, if somebody likes the symbols and want to start their own group and call it the Masonic Order of the Sword or something, I don't know, pick a term, and meet in their garage and create their own rituals based on what they've heard of Freemasonry. I mean, so long as they're not hurting anybody or committing any crimes, I mean, more power to them, right? What I would say is the reason why I don't think that'd be a good idea ultimately is, amongst other things, you would be unrecognized. And if you're not recognized, you cannot travel and cannot visit other lodges, right? So, for example, I, as a Mason, I'm part of a recognized Masonic body, a recognized and regular Masonic body. I can visit Masonic lodges and brethren in the Philippines, in Rio de Janeiro, in Bogota, Colombia, in Texas, in uh, Illinois, in Michigan, in Manitoba, in Ontario, in Scotland, in England. If I started my own, bastardized version of Freemasonry, um, and put it on my, door and have meetings in my apartment and tell people I'm a Freemason, I can do that if I want. There's nothing to stop me, but I'm not going to be able to go visit other brethren around the world. I'm going to lose a lot of the best qualities of being a Freemason. Having said that, people can do what they want. And we are not worshiping Lucifer, Coleman TV. I am not employed. Well, I mean, I am employed. This is my employment. This is what I do for a living. I saved a lot of my money over the years, and I'm trying to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession. Well, it would be very different because A, you couldn't travel, which is the most important thing of being a Freemason legend, at least for your Masonic journey. B, there's no way to know if you're creating the correct rituals or not. And C, because you're not recognized, you do not get the benefit of, for example, possible benevolence, things like that. I mean, the example would be I could start tomorrow calling myself a dentist and I could, buy some dental equipment, but it doesn't make me a dentist. Now, the difference is in the dentistry case, there could be legal consequences to practicing dentistry without a license. There's probably not going to be any legal, like criminal consequences to calling yourself a Freemason when you're not, but you are going to spend a lot of time and a lot of energy on something that ultimately will not get you very far in any type of journey, Masonic or otherwise. Um, Well, there have been recognized members who've strayed just in life. I've unfortunately known and heard of Masons who've fallen into problems with addiction or gambling or whatever it might be, because Freemasons are human beings. And part of being a human is, Freemasonry can point towards, I think, directions of living a good life here on earth and being a good community member, being a good person all at once, but it can just point you in that path. You can be a Freemason and go, all sorts of straight paths because you're human. Hopefully, Freemasonry can help, bring you back into a better place if you fall off. But human beings are human beings. The universe has way more than 1 million stars. The universe has I don't even know how many stars. Billions. How many stars in universe? I used to know this. Like 10 billion? Oh, there are an estimated 1 septillion stars in the observable universe. So that is 1 with 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. 1 with 24 zeros behind it. Um, Well, I mean, what's to stop any organization excluding based on race or sexual orientation? At its core, it's the members' beliefs. Or the members' morality. What I'll say is, I've sat in lodge with brethren of all different races, black, white, European, South American, Spanish, North American, Asian. I've sat in lodge with members of all different races. I've sat in lodge with members of all different orientations, gay and straight. Uh, there's a great policy on trans members from the United Grand Lodge of England. There's the Order of Women Freemasons as well as Eastern Star. And then, at its core, it's our belief in tolerance, as well as tolerance for different religious beliefs, different political beliefs. I mean, that tolerance has existed within Freemasonry since the Regius poem. Um, how do you get kicked out if you are a respective member? Well, I mean, there's different way. First of all, you don't have to get kicked out. You can just choose to leave of your own accord. Many Masons will demit. It's called for a variety of reasons. In some cases, they may move away from their Masonic lodge and they just don't have the time to visit anymore or they're too far away. They may not want to pay the dues anymore, even if they're as little as $40 a year. For some people, if they're struggling and they have a family, $40 a year can be too much. Having said that, if you stop paying your dues, you can be suspended. Or if you, for example, act in an unmasonic way. So one way is if you commit a crime while a Mason, you can be suspended and removed from the craft. Um, if you are reviling someone's religion, as Dawkins seems to be, um, then the same thing. Uh, so Caesar, I mean, I don't know how Knights of Columbus works, if the $75 per year is a national cost or if it changes based on where you live. Within Freemasonry, it's decentralized. So there's no single like dues. For example, I'm a member of 5 Masonic lodges. The cheapest dues I pay is $25 per year. The most expensive dues I pay are 250 a year at this point, and each one goes to a different lodge in a different location. Dues are set based on really how expensive it is to operate the lodge within the area. If you're in a big town or big city, it's going to cost more than if you're in a small town. Um, well, I mean, what I would say is I'm not going to knock, like if somebody's says that they're religious, then good for them. I'm not going to be a reviler of anyone's religion. You can believe whatever you want about the Bible. I'm not a Christian myself, but if it is somebody's faith, then good for them. I mean, Freemasonry, do Masons have life insurance policies? I mean, Masons, like, I've heard in the past of Masonic life insurance policies, but I've never seen it. I mean, I have my own life insurance, but that's not through the Freemasons. In a sense, you could argue Masonry is a kind of insurance policy. Like if you find yourself in trouble, you know you've got some friends you can contact. You know, if your house burns down and you need a place to stay, you can call your Masonic brothers. Hopefully, one of them can give you a couch or a bed to stay in while your house is rebuilt. So that's a type of insurance. Um, how do Masons? Well, I mean, that's a weird question, Esther. At least I'm not sure how to take that. I mean, we're not out there like we're not out there defending ourselves against people attacking us. I mean, I've never been in a Masonic lodge and thought I'm going to have to throw down against outside Cowans coming in to attack us. We have Tylers, but they're ceremonial. They don't, I'm not, they're not out there training in kickboxing to deal with the people trying to break down the doors. I don't really, yeah, I mean, Masons are Masons. Some maybe train in MMA or boxing if they want to. I'd say we don't really have to worry about defending ourselves physically. We have to worry about defending ourselves from, for example, conspiracy theories and foolish ideas, like what Caesar was talking about, for example. I don't have to defend myself physically from Caesar. I have to worry about defending my ideas and my understanding of what Freemasonry is from false perceptions, accusations, and conspiracy. Um, or from work, for example. I don't know if baptism is the right term, work. When I was a child, I was dunked in the water, but I'm Anglican, so I don't know if the term is baptism or if the term in Anglican faith is something different. Again, I'm not a Christian. I mean, I believe I'm just born in an Anglican family, but whatever that's called is what I was. So yes, I had some water put on me as a child when I was a baby. I found some pictures of that recently because my mom passed away about a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago actually, and I was looking through a what's it called? I was looking through a photo album and came across some pictures from my whatever it's called, baptism, I guess. Masons are neither villains nor victims. Masons are members of the community, and I'm proud to be one. I have never been baptized in animal blood, and I've been a Mason for 20 years. Um, Aside from the fact that I don't know where you would get it from, it'd just be gross and probably illegal. I suspect animal blood is illegal to baptize one in. Um, right. I mean, Caesar makes wild claims because my suspicion with Caesar, I don't know him, so this is an assumption, is I've talked about this before. There's a bit of a codependent relationship going on. What I mean by that is my suspicion is he's got some challenges in his life, and instead of dealing with those challenges, is choosing to fall into conspiracy theories and conspiracy ideas. Usually, a good way I can gauge that is if somebody comes on the stream and just asks general questions. Like, I've heard this about Freemasonry. What do you say to that? That's one thing. If somebody's coming on and just making statements, then my assumption is usually they're leading a challenging life and need to believe these things as a way to avoid dealing with whatever problems they have in their own lives. Um, uh, okay, so the Anglican Church is an extension. So does that mean it's baptism when you're an infant and you're like have the water put on you? I think it's called baptism, but somebody told me it's called something different than baptism if you're not Catholic. I don't know. Well, you've heard wrong, Caesar. Just because you're taught about Masons doesn't mean what you're taught is correct. I mean, keep in mind, I've never been a Knight of Columbus. So imagine if I came on this stream and started talking about the Knights of Columbus and making up a bunch of stuff. You might be kind of annoyed with that. And you might say, rightly so, if you've never been a Knight of Columbus, who are you to say these things? Right? Maybe keep that in mind. What I will say though is I've never, from a Masonic perspective, no Mason has ever taught me anything negative or bad about the Knights of Columbus. So maybe it's worth you showing the same respect to the Masons that the Masons have shown to the Knights of Columbus. Um, the Knights of Columbus, I mean, I've met some Knights of Columbus. They can be handsome fellas. Um, I don't know if Caesar's mental, but I definitely think Caesar maybe has some challenges in his life. And maybe the way he's dealing with it is by finding conspiracy theories to take his mind off of his own personal challenges. That's my assumption. But I'll say again, when it comes to the Knights of Columbus, I've known a few um, great people, great dudes, great parts of the community, and they do a lot of good charitable work as well. Um, Isaiah, what are the benefits of Freemasonry? So the benefits of Freemasonry are different um, depending on, um, like every Mason will get different benefits from it, right? So for me, for example, um, one of the benefits I get from being a Freemason is it makes me feel closer to my grandfather. My grandfather on my dad's side passed away before I was born. Um, and I never got to meet him, but he was a Freemason. So the fact that I'm a Freemason as well, I do feel close to him in a way that I may not have otherwise. I've also, developed skills and abilities. I've learned how to organize and run meetings. Even my stream, my ability to respond to this stream, part of that comes from Freemasonry because I've had to be in meetings as a worshipful master and this person has a comment and this person has a comment and this person has a comment and try to keep it all in order and make sure everybody gets their turn to speak. I've also developed memorization skills. Other Masons, the benefit is, they make friends that they would not meet otherwise. Also, very often they meet friends who have variety of backgrounds. Within Freemasonry, right, you're meeting people of different political beliefs, different religious beliefs, different cultural beliefs. If you're not a Freemason, you may not have ever met them, especially if, for example, the friends you make are exclusively from your church, they're all likely to have the same background, at least the same religious background. Um, but at its core, the benefit of Freemasonry is fulfilling that human desire to belong to something greater than oneself. Or you could argue the benefit is just because you love it. What's the benefit of listening to your favorite song? You love the song, right? That's the benefit of it. There's also the benefit of a social safety net. I've known at least three Masons who would have been homeless were it not for Freemasonry and were it not for being able to go to the Masonic Lodge and ask for help, ask for assistance to pay their rent, to pay their mortgage, kept them off the street, which, by the way, doesn't just help that person, it helps the whole community. Because that's one less person who's going to end up homeless on the street and needing help from the community. Um, are you denying that Continental Freemasonry has been anti-clerical? I am denying that Freemasonry is anti-clerical. When you say done attacks on the church, I would say the church has done more attacks on Freemasonry than the latter, which I'd keep in mind as well. Um, well, Daryl Brown, again, you keep showing up. Um, no, but it does make it one of the benefits. I mean, whether it's okay or not, you kind of have to decide for yourself, and everybody can free to do that, but it's a benefit. No different than, again, listening to your favorite song. What is the benefit of listening to your favorite song? The benefit of listening to your favorite song is it's your favorite song and you like it. Now, if you want to argue the song is not good or whatever, that's a whole separate can of tuna, and you can make those debates. But the question was the benefit of Freemasonry, right? And again, there's a lot of different benefits to Freemasonry. A lot of them are individualized, a lot of them are personal. But again, within that, there is at its core, I think at the end of the day, the reason anybody should join Freemasonry at its core is ultimately because you love it. You should never join for some other benefit because those benefits become transactional, right? Like if you say the benefit of Freemasonry is I really enjoy going to the meeting, like that's dependent on the meeting going well and what happens when the meeting doesn't go well. At its core, it should be because there's something about Freemasonry that just speaks to you that you love. And that's a beautiful thing. Legend, if you want to, you can do a super chat. I mean, I'd appreciate it very much. You can do a super chat, you can do a membership. Just 99 cents helps out big times. And, well, I mean, if that is what you mean, then listening to your favorite song is personal based as well, right? So I guess listening to your favorite song is satanic. I guess in that theory, anything you do that you enjoy doing is satanic, which is a pretty childish way to look at things, Josh, to be honest. Maybe you might want to reconsider that because, there are things I enjoy doing that I love doing. It's, I make no, when I listen to my favorite song, I'm not pretending it's for anybody other than myself. But that doesn't make it satanic. That's a very silly attitude you have. It's very easy to do a super chat legend, and I'd be honored if you did. But having said that, of course, I'm honored if you're just on the stream at all. I'm grateful if you're on the stream. Like, share, that helps as much as anything else. It helps very much. Just sharing the stream, liking, subscribing, follow me on social media. I promise you that stuff helps out big time. We're going to give you another, let's say, 5 minutes. Then we'll end this stream, but we'll be back on tomorrow. Well, Josh, you keep showing up and saying the same things. Maybe you should check some stuff out as well. I mean, it's not a cult. You have to kind of take everything with a grain of salt because if I got too upset with people having incorrect views of Freemasonry, I would never stream again because I'd be dealing with a lot of nonsense all the time and letting it get to me. You know, Again, I'll just say it's not a cult. The reason it's not a cult, amongst other things, is because cults require you to put the cult ahead of everything else in your life, whereas Freemasonry expects you to put your family, your work, and even your deity or your religion ahead of Freemasonry. Cults are inherently separate. Cults inherently have a desire for separation within them, right? The whole point is to get you separated from your friends and your family so they can't point out to you, hey, don't belong to this cult. Or that's true of scams as well. Freemasonry encourages you, first and foremost, to connect with your family, your work, even your community, and then from there, bring in Freemasonry. Maybe. I don't know if you could join or not, Josh. Not everybody gets in, and it's not for everybody, but if you want to try, go for it. Find a Masonic lodge in your area, talk to them. My suspicion is they'll find out that you want to join for not the right reasons. But being an artist is cool. That's a noble profession. If you're saying you do it as a profession or if you do it as a hobby, it is. Being an artist is a noble profession and a noble hobby. So, well, being an artist doesn't let you, has no, you could be an artist, you could be a plumber, you could be a mechanic, you could be A prime minister, that's not. I mean, if you joined, you could use your art maybe for the craft, like help them design posters or promotional items or websites, right? You could do that. Well, if I found out that someone wanted to join Freemasonry for power or money, I would blackball them. Otherwise, not let them in because Freemasonry will not get you power or money, and as a consequence, the person joining would just be disappointed, and it's not fair to them or us, right? It's not fair to them to have them go through the time and effort of the application process to pay their initiation fees, on the false idea that they're going to get money or power or fame or whatever it is from being a Freemason, right? Now, if they can hide it, they can hide it, and so be it. Um, Hopefully not. I mean, I would hope that everybody who applies gets a response. If the secretary is super busy, I mean, who knows? But everybody who wants to apply, wants to learn more, should get a response. All right, Josh, you're getting cranky. I think it's past your bedtime. Uh, you're clearly just a very sad dude who's leading a very sad life. And I wish you, you know, hopefully you can find some peace and happiness. But you're clearly not leading a good life and you're clearly not a good person at the moment. Or at least you are, you know, you're clearly a very foolish, stupid person. Um, Well, you get used to it, Lapis. He's in a bit of a timeout. Sometimes it's like dealing with a child. You got to put them in timeout for a second. Um, a time for judgment? You're not wrong. It is about all of those things for sure. Isaiah. Well, so the Templars, the actual Templars, came first. They were around in the Middle Ages. They accompanied people on their journey during the Crusades from Europe to the Middle East. After they were, I was going to say disbanded, but I guess hunted by the King of France and the Pope, that was the end of them. When Freemasonry formed, they were developing different appendant bodies. They developed the York Rite and brought in symbolism from the Templars as a way to like demonstrate certain valuable truths and valuable like ways to live one's life, honor, chivalry, things of that nature. Um, so there is no direct connection. There is an indirect connection and a legendary or mythological connection that was developed through the York Rite. I love, I love Manly P. Hall, but people need to know Manly P. Hall was not a Mason when he wrote The Secret Teachings of All Ages. You need to keep that in mind. A lot of people think he was. He wrote that way before he became a Freemason. Um, well, it's not false valor in the same way, like people can use the term knight in a lot of different ways, right? Like there's a ton of different groups and organizations that use the term knight or look back at the Knights Templars as a symbol of values, right? Um, it'd be false valor if you called yourself like if you said that you're literally like a soldier, a member of the armed forces, but if you understand that you are representing something, I have no issue with that. I mean, Freemasonry is not a gay group. I know Freemasons who are gay, and I have no issue. It's all, Freemasonry does not discriminate based on one's sexual orientation. This is Screw and Compass Promotions. Please hit like and subscribe, by the way. I've never heard of separate colleges that exclusively Freemasons attend. I've heard of colleges, well, there's the College of Freemasonry, which I guess is a type of college, but it's for people, it's providing courses about Freemasonry. And to my knowledge, actually, non-Masons can join the College of Freemasonry as well if they want to learn more about Freemasonry. So Houdini was a Freemason. That is very true. He was a great Freemason. Him and Arthur Conan Doyle were both Freemasons. Though they got into fights later on in life. All right, guys, we're going to end this stream. It's been a lot of fun. I'll be back on tomorrow at 1 p.m. It's going to be a shorter stream because I have to get ready for some stuff. I would say I would not recommend gay groups or straight groups. I recommend groups of that share your interests. So if you love chess, join a chess club. Don't worry about sexual orientation. Worry about things you enjoy. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lapis. I will see you all soon. Well, Gerald Ford was a Freemason, and he was the last kind of uncontested Masonic Freemason president. There have been others since, but it's questioned as to whether they are or are not. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get me back over 3,300 subs.